A very good evening and warm welcome to everybody on the GT World YouTube channel for this, the GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series, the 6th round of the championship at the beautiful Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. Today we have got 60 minutes of GT3 racing, and to talk you through all of the action and drama will be myself, Paul Jeffrey, and alongside me once again, the voice, Mr. Lewis McGlade.
Well, thanks for the big welcome. It's great to be back. It has been a while since we did the 24 hours of Spa and the endurance side of things. It is great to be hitting the racetrack once again with some of the best drivers in sim racing.
Yeah, it has been quite a while since we were at Spa-Francorchamps last time out, and everybody, of course, needs a break when you've done a 24-hour race, but this is an entirely different proposition altogether. Misano is a very tight and compact circuit at just 2.6 kilometres in length. We have got a 40-plus car grid of drivers, and Lewis, that is going to present significant challenges to our, as you say, very talented esports stars tonight.
With it being one of the shorter tracks that we visit on the calendar, obviously the times are so close, and we did see that over qualifying, which is past, and we'll get to the grid order. Don't you worry, over 30 cars within a second. It is a tight circuit when it comes to that, and because of it, it's a little bit of a hard one to make your way up the racetrack. However, the side-by-side on lap one, I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to work your way up the order.
Yeah, we were speaking a little bit off air before we came into this broadcast. Although it's a short and a tight and a twisty circuit, there is a significant amount of runoff on the outskirts in many of these corners. So it's certainly possible to go side by side, to take a chance and make your way up the order if perhaps you've not qualified quite as strongly as you would have hoped, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, particularly around the second half of the racetrack, once you come out of T10, you go through these incredibly fast right-handers. You can sneak one down the inside there fairly frequently. You've got the back straight down into what is effectively turn 8 as well. Of course, the start-finish straight. There is plenty of opportunities to make an overtake. There's some decent straights around here. It's a circuit which is mostly known in modern times, realistically, for its bike racing and such, obviously named after Marco Simoncelli. It's a circuit, though, that, like I say, it's wide open on 2 and 4, and it's used across so many different categories of motorsport. It's fantastic in that, but when you come to the pit stops as well halfway through the race, I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities for the drivers that haven't qualified so well to find a way up the order.
Yeah, our pit stop, mandatory pit stop, always has a bit of drama. Let's have a quick look at the championship standings. David Tanitsa for the Ferrari Driver Academy Esports team is our championship leader on 99 points, but the competitive swing has gone very much the way of McLaren in recent races. So James Baldwin, winner last time out at Zandvoort, has moved up to second in the standings, just 2 points ahead of VRS co-anda Sim Sports Josh Rogers, who is not here today. So big opportunities for those behind, the likes of Kevin Ciggy, also on 63 points, and the second FDA esports team of Giovanni Di Salvo have a great opportunity to move themselves up into that top 3 running order. VRS are represented by Jeremy Bootloo, and he is, of course, a driver that's found a rich vein of form in the last couple of races with a big Bentley Continental GT3. So no doubt he'll be a driver that we'll see making his way through the running order as the race progresses. The first of the works BMW, the sim racing G2 esports car of Nils Naujoks, is in 7th position in the championship standings. Nils having a bit of a rough time of it after a strong start to the season. In the last 3 rounds, we'll be looking to bounce back here at Misano. Tobias Pfeffer for the R8G, the Roman Grosjean esport team, another McLaren. So again, expect Pfeffer to be very competitive from here on in the season. Eamon Murphy for Yas Heat, also a McLaren 720S GT3 driver, is 9th in the standings with just 20 points to his name. But again, Murphy incredibly fast. Expect to see him at the sharp end of the grid. And rounding out the top 10, Lewis, in the point standings is Nikita Wisniewski for the Williams eSport team. Williams' real-life benefit has worked very well indeed last few weeks in Formula 1 racing, and let's see if they can transfer that into the world of virtual motorsport.
Yeah, absolutely. And the championship points, obviously, it's the top 10 that score points. So plenty of drivers up here in the point scoring positions, but some are maybe a bit further down than we would expect. Di McCormack, who I don't think qualified too well around it. We'll get to qualifying in a moment, but only scored points at one location this season. Speaking of Williams Esports, of course, you've got Lozio. You've got Martin Karonke, who's a bit further down than he would want to be, of course, in the championship, not racing here today. VRS Commander Sport have just one driver, and that is Jeremy Booth, as you were alluding to earlier. Arthur Camera, way down the order than where I would expect Camera to be, with Petroshenko, Darren King, Lucas Miller and Luke Whitehead, who, by the way, Whitehead is looking pretty fast around here. Martin Stefanko, the final point scorer, the last one in the points at Zandvoort. But the thing with Stefanko, he was feeling, at least from what the social posts and stuff he was doing coming into this, feeling a little bit more confident coming into this round.
Yep, so we will see how this goes. Of course, the drivers that are at the top 5 of the championship standings automatically get a place in the next race, and the rest of the grid is secured via a hot lap qualification session. So we've got one or two new names in the running order to keep our eye out of the course of the race today, which will be fascinating, as it always is in this series, to see how the new names embed themselves in the championship. We've also got one or two returning names, Ayanori Rose, that we see on the screen there, our female racer. It'd be great to see how she gets on over the course of the race as well. Charlie Crossland for the team vote, Fordzilla Bentley Continental GT3 as well. Another name that we've seen throughout the course of the series, and of course championship leader even, David Tinitzer, will be looking for a massive opportunity here today, won't he, Lewis? That without Josh Rogers, the VRS co-anda car, always in and around the pointy end, this was David Tinitzer's opportunity, I think, to start to really put a stamp on this championship, if not something he's already done so far this year.
Oh, absolutely. That's where the focus must be, is now that, like I say, Coanda aren't here for this round, focusing attention elsewhere, including in tomorrow's 6-hour race at the Nurburgring, focusing on that more so than this at present, which is, each to their own. Like you say, got to take advantage in that absence and really stepping in. Plenty of other drivers, by the way, on that list, including one which was Jordan Grant Smith, who's qualified in 15th. But I'll say something about Grant Smith. Was the winner in the American Sprint Series round, which was the Hungaroring. So clearly has some good pace on Assetto Corsa Competizione, and that was against some pretty sizably decent drivers, as well as it always is across all of the SO Esports series that we run. So a driver that may well do quite well jumping into this round.
And that is one of the beauties, isn't it, of this SRO Esports Championship, the fact that our drivers have got to qualify in a hot lap competition. It's an incredibly difficult scenario, isn't it, for these drivers? If you're one of the front runners, we see some of our drivers' a selection on the screen now, but if you're one of the front runners and you have a bad race or a couple of bad scores, you can fall into this scenario where you've got to set a hot lap time to be part of the next round, and that can really mix things up, can't it, and open the door for people like Jordan Grant Smith to join the grid for us.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I hate it. I love it. I love watching it. I hate it as a driver. It's because the thing is, you have to perform constantly. There is no lifting off the accelerator. You have to always be on it, because you don't know if you're going to be guaranteed. You have to always assume, obviously, especially if you're down in the championship, you've got to assume that you always have to step it up. You always have to qualify. You always have to be on it. Now, whilst you can bring that into some of your practice routine, so you're always adding yourself as a part of the mix in that way, and so you're getting that all sorted. Practice for a qualifying session like that, pre-qualifying to get you onto the grid, and practice for the race, two wildly different things. So, each their own.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, talking about qualification, that has happened while we have been just a little bit before we came on air, in fact. So in a few moments' time, we'll have a quick look at the starting grid for this, the 6th round of the GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series Championship. And of course, this is anybody new to the series, first and foremost, welcome. This is a 60-minute race. There will be a mandatory pit stop where cars must take at least 1 litre of fuel in the dedicated pit window that will last for 10 minutes. And I'm sure Lewis will testify, and as we've both waxed lyrical about over the course of this season, that pit window opens up opportunities for people to take advantage. Undercuts and overcuts are incredibly powerful, and this is a series that is is just as much about the strategic thinking of the drivers as it is the actual racing itself. And let's take a look at that grid. In pole position, we've got James Baldwin, winner last time out at Zandvoort, and alongside him is Eamon Murphy for the Yas Heat McLaren team. So McLaren 1-2, continuing that run of form that the brand and the mark have had in recent races. Our championship leader, remember, 99 points, 32 points, 34 points to the good. David Tanitsa in the danger zone in third position, still very much in with a shot of a big points haul today. Trizione Bironi in fourth position, the number 71 AMG Mercedes runner, rounds out the second row of the grid with Dare McCormack in fifth position. Another very, very good qualifying performance for Mercedes. It'll be interesting to see how they get on over the course of the season. Luke Whitehead and Kevin Ciggy are sixth and seventh position on the grid. That's another Mercedes, and again another McLaren for the team Redline car that you see on the left hand side of your screen. Now Giovanni Di Salvo, a little bit disappointed to be down in 8th position in the second Ferrari Driver Academy car. Di Salvo will be looking to make hay in the early parts of the race to back up his team leader up in 3rd position. Matej Malinowski is 9th position, and rounding out the top 10 is the Porsche of Bagnall, the number 46 machine that you see on your screen there. In 11th position is Caglioni, a new driver in the Bentley Continental GT3. Yuri Petrichenko in 12th position, another very, very competitive driver. The 26 Porsche will be one to keep an eye out for as the race progresses. And Nils Naujoks, we spoke about him at the top of the show, the Works BMW driver in the M6 GT3, having a challenging qualification but doing well to get 13th on the grid. Luca Lozio in P14th. Jordan Grant-Smith, as spoken about earlier from GT World Challenge Americas, lines up in 15th position. The sole VRS Coandicaro, Jeremy Boutlou, in P716. Gregor Schill is 17th with Artie Camera, teammate, alongside in P18th. Darren King in 19th position in the beautiful Honda NSX, and Ayanori Rose rounds out the top 20 in the Jean Alesi Esports Academy, number 56 Ferrari on your screen now.
Yeah, and you can see on the left-hand side, Lamborghini, the highest place Lamborghini on the grid, just 21st position for Marco Yonkers, with Sakuro in 22nd position in the 22. Stefanko looking to add to his points tally, picked up a single one at Zandvoort and wants a couple more from today, with Cantoneo alongside Nicholas Hillebrand jumping into yet another round in that Honda, looking for a top 20 from this evening's race with Attila Dench alongside for BS Competition. Charlie Crossland in the BMW, in the Bentley, rather, for Team Fordzilla. Fantastic to see those all lovely liveried up. Love to see their Lamborghini as well. Absolutely sensational with Ben Craner alongside. Antomarchi with Rene Sivet in the BMW for Unicorns of Love. I'm sure that one will be a very popular one out there, with Bonacorsi and Rabiti down the order a little bit for GTWR. Durkop and Fotcher with Pedrazini, Fervra and Planas. Pocopion, Duran and Rene round out the grid that you can see down here, and it is obviously going to be very tight on the first lap, particularly more so in the midpoint of the grid. I speak about this so much when we go racing with grids like this, Paul, that if there's a part of the grid that I don't want to be in, it's the middle. The front, I'm fine. The back, I'm less happy, but I'm almost... I could take that as a choice. The mid-pack, anything from about 6th to 36th, is the danger zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you alluded to at the beginning of this broadcast, qualification has been so incredibly tight. It is a short circuit, which obviously encourages close lap times. But if I'm looking down the running order now, the top 31 separated by just under a second. Now, take a moment, if you will, to think about that. 31 drivers, very different cars, very different experience levels, different teams running them, covered by less than a second. Lewis McGlade, if that is not a recipe for either a beautiful race or an unmitigated disaster on the opening lap, I don't know what is.
Well, if there is one thing that can be guaranteed from it, is that there are a lot of drivers very annoyed right now because you have that. You put in your PB lap, you're 3/10 off of pole position. It's a PB for you. It's fantastic. You've really nailed that qualifying session. You're 15th. good luck, have fun. You know what I mean? It's quite jarring when you look at it. It's almost like ignore the position, just accept the pace. It's just how fast and competitive a series like this is that you have to accept that if you're not within a tenth of pole position, you're basically nowhere. It doesn't mean that you're going to have a bad race. You can work your way up the order, although I would want a car that's a bit punchy in a straight line right now, because if you're in that mid-pack, if you're in a car that's great at the corners, well, that's all well and good, but you can't really maximise that when you're in the pack.
Yeah, it is the danger zone, as you very rightly mentioned earlier on. That is the area where drivers have got to be cautious not to get involved in an accident of their own making, or even worse, an accident of somebody else's design. But at the same time, you've got to take these early opportunities, don't you? While the cars are heavy, while the tyres are cold, while everybody's getting themselves into the zone of a 1 hour endurance / sprint race. That's where your best opportunities lie to make up big positions in the early running, but that's where the danger sits very firmly as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see we've waken up a lot of people, considering it's 9 o'clock. Going into it around it's built like it's a circuit which is obviously in a housing estate. Essentially, it's part of the town life. And I mean, to be fair, I'd love to live in a town like that. I'm sure some people don't know. I love building a house right next to a racetrack and then having all the cars go around and then complaining about it. But it is what it is. There are a couple of drivers though that I'd like to focus on in this sense that need to do the work, and most notably is Kevin Ciggy, 7th place for a driver that is genuinely hand on heart looking for this championship. We know the pace of Kevin Ciggy as well. 7th isn't actually good enough, realistically. When the McLarens are locking out the front row of the grid, you'd come on, should be at least 3rd or 4th. He'll know that himself, and he'll be going into this thinking that I can make this up. Siggy's a driver that knows how to overtake, and that is a certainty. I'm sure we're going to see him make his way up the order.
Yeah, and of course, Kevin Ciggy, don't forget, podium finisher in the last 3 races, provided enormous entertainment in the opening round of the season back on May 21st at Monza with a great defensive drive all the way to the end. So Ciggy for the red line car is a driver absolutely worth keeping an eye on, as we see an incident in qualifying involving cars number 62 and 93, a 10-second time penalty for Ben Craner for the HPD Jazz Pro Europe Honda NSX. So difficult times for Ben Craner, but now let's concentrate on the start of the race. The cars are on a rolling start. They're lining up in 2x2 formation. They're keeping their eye out for the timing gantry at the top of the screen. The red lights will be extinguished in a few short moments, and then the revs will rise. This is the start of the 6th round, the GT World Challenge Championship Esports Europe Sprint Series. A great start for the 2 McLarens, retaining 1st and 2nd position. David Tinitza trying to stay out of trouble for the Ferrari Driver Academy Esports team in position 3. Everybody's snaking through. We get a car facing the wrong direction a little bit further down the running order. The timing screen suggests there's some drive-through penalties, as well as Whitehead tries to find his way through the running order. The number 32 Mercedes-Benz in a gaggle of AMG Mercedes. Can Whitehead, using all the racetrack and more, find his way up the running order? Yes, he can. A very good start for Luke Whitehead in the Mercedes, as Eamon Murphy now on the attacking 2nd position for Yas Heat.
Yeah, he's got to watch out for Tinitza. There's a couple of issues, though. Bagnall has made an awful lot of progress up into 6th position. Siggy's already inside the top 5 and applying pressure. Cagnoli is inside the top 10 as well. There's been a couple of drivers that have dropped down. Grant Smith's gained a couple of spots through that S's section in the early part. There's been issues for someone, but for the most part, everyone has come through fine. Also, look at that. Niels Nyox is applying pressure and trying to get through on Grant Smith.
Fantastic stuff from our drivers. First option in the book, number 1 tick, stay clean and safe in the first 2 or 3 corners. Most of the field have managed to do that one. Nils Nyox, 13th on the grid, 12th in the race so far, trying to make headway in the somewhat reluctant BMW M6 GT3. He's the Sim Racing G2 Esports BMW driver, having a very talented driver, British GT Esports Series champion, of course, in GT4. So now Nyox, we know, has pedigree, but has got work to do, and that's Jeremy Putlu just behind him as well. So good start for the big Bentley Continental GT3.
Yeah, and for Jeremy Bootaloo, who's been getting better as the series has gone on. Oh, look at that. He's been getting better at a podium last round out at Zandvoort. Would like to continue this kind of trend, but with Grant Smith now looking all over. Oh, look at the dive there. That was Camera Schill getting down the inside of Lazio as BMW Sim Racing G2 Esports are all sort of in this mid-pack, and you can see the side-by-side there with the Jean Lacey Esports Academy driver, and Gregor Schill's out of here, and Camera might be picking up the position on his teammate, backs out of it and allows Gregor Schill to hold the position for now, but they're squabbling here a bit.
Yeah, dangerous times for the BMW team, but Gregor Schill very much a man on the move. Jordan Grant Smith ahead of him is the man next on the attack. Gregor Schill seems to have the pace at this stage in the race. Can he find a way past the 720S McLaren ahead? We'll find out in a few moments' time as we see plenty of cars now squabbling for positions, just as we predicted in the early stages of this race. Would be a case of trying to make opportunities where they exist. Well, everybody's a little bit new into the event. The tyres are cold, the cars are at their absolute heaviest. Of course, it's 9:11 p.m. in game time, so the light will be fading as the race progresses. This is the best view of the circuit these drivers will get, and as the light and the temperature drops, that will bring different cars and different drivers into contention, I am sure.
That penalty applied to Craner, the 10-second time penalty, will be served in the pit stop. Doesn't need to come in outside of the pit lane sequence, can just do it, add it to the pit stop, the same kind of 10-second time penalty we're used to in motorsport these days. Just serve it in the pit lane sequence, so we'll be absolutely fine. As I do like seeing Team Ballast Esports, by the way. Their social media stuff is very, very good. They once edited a picture of a bus doing a drift around a corner with Ballast Esports logos all over it. Great stuff. A great bunch of guys that are sort of spread out across sim racing these days. Nice to see them racing in here and now trying to get past the fairly experienced Attila Dench, with Martin Stefanko's inside the top 20 at the moment. We'll want to be 10 positions ahead of that. I'm pretty sure we want to be 20 positions ahead of that. By the way, the big loser on the early lap there was Brioni, who qualified in 4th spot but dropped down to 9th, unfortunately, just not getting into the rhythm in his MCW racing team Mercedes. At the moment, it's just kind of I think one of the main ones that was just sort of pushed around a little bit in lap 1. Nothing major, but just frustrating.
Yeah, very difficult not to get elbowed out in the early stages of a race. We're looking at board now. Luke Whitehead in the Mercedes goes to the outside of the Porsche, gets a great run, coming into the braking zone. The Porsche covers the inside line. That is Bagnall ahead of this shot that we see now. Whitehead, look at the concentration. Picture in picture, he's trying to find a way past. This is such a difficult circuit to find an overtaking opportunity unless you have a significant pace advantage over the car in which you were chasing, and Whitehead seems to have that pace advantage at this moment in time in the number 32. He'll try and convert that into the 6th position. He's looking to liberate from the Porsche ahead, and Whitehead very much looks like a man with pace in that car at the moment, and he needs to make a move quickly on Bagnall as Kevin Ciggy in the number 11, Redline Racing McLaren is starting to break away from this little pack. So if Whitehead has any intention of moving further up than 6th position, now is the time to lay those intentions on the table and do something about it against Bagnall ahead.
Yeah, he'll be dead frustrated with not being able to get by there running round. I mean, the pace differential between them is actually a part of the circuit which I would have thought the Porsche was doing better down the other end of the circuit. But you can see, look at Whitehead's triple screen setup, massive, everything. You can see a full vision around as to what's going on. Compare that to Jordan Grant Smith in just a standard single screen, which I'm sure most of us as sim racers are kind of used to driving on. That's what most of us race on. Just driving with what you've got, and Grant Smith is very good. Look at Malinovsky under pressure there, though, from Brioni, running around this right-handed sequence. There's also a bit of side-by-side between them. Wonder if there's going to be a switch in position, and Brioni gaining one.
As meanwhile, further down the order, Charlie Crossland's got 15-second time penalty against his name, so Crossland will be looking to serve that one when the pit stop comes a little bit later on. As we're looking now at Leonardo Caglione in the Jean Lacey Esport Academy car using the Bentley Continental GT3, so it's great to see the big Bentley with the Jean Lacey logos on the side of it. Very, very strong performance so far. 10th position in the race, just behind Tizione Brioni in one of the many AMG Mercedes in the field today. So good job from Caglione at this stage in the race. And of course, just like in real-world GT3 racing, these are very different cars that will perform very differently at different stages of the race. Meanwhile, Petrochenko, as I'm talking now, with a bit between his teeth, Yuri Petrochenko in 11th position suddenly thinks he has an opportunity to find a way past that big Bentley Continental. That will not be the easiest of tasks, but Petrochenko, we know, is a very fast driver. Meanwhile, Lewis, a big fight here.
Yeah, Whitehead trying to get it done on Bagnall then, has tried a couple of times, might go for the switchback, knows he's quite fast, and that Mercedes around this sort of second part of the racetrack gets the cut back, but not able to get alongside. By the way, the gap between the lead is close, but we're keeping our eye on Baldwin and Murphy. This is Whitehead to the inside of Bagnall, going through those right-handers towards the end of the circuit. Easily done. Bagnall did not really fight that one too hard and allowed Whitehead to go through and gain 6th position. There is Eamon Murphy, who sat in 2nd spot. These two are essentially teammates. Yes, one's driving for McLaren Shadow, one's driving for Yaz Heat. Both outfits, from memory, are run by Veloce, so they're sorted in their own little world. They will fight, I'm sure, I have no doubt of that, but at the same time, at this point, they're looking on pulling away from Tunitsa and building a gap and then fighting amongst themselves. Whilst they're not direct teammates, there is a linkage there. I mean, Baldwin was driving for Yaz Heat in the SimGrid World Cup a little while ago, so yeah, there's some decent rapport between these two.
Yeah, and of course the smart play at this stage in the race is just try and break away from the chasing pack, build yourself a little bit of a cushion to those behind you, and then to sort out who will take the race lead and who will have 2nd position. No point fighting now. The harder you fight, the closer you bring the rest of the field onto the rear of your car. So smart play from the two McLaren drivers at the moment. Don't really look to bother each other, just get the pedal to the metal, try and build as much of a gap as possible. But David Tunitsa in 3rd position is not a driver people build a gap over very easily, and Tunitsa still lurking like a hungry shark that he is to see if any opportunities fall his way as this race progresses. We're only 9 minutes in, there's 51 minutes left on the clock, so there's plenty of racing still to do, and of course there is the mandatory pit window coming up around 35 minutes left on the timing screen at the top of your monitors. If you look in the middle of the screen there, the Rebellion timing screen, so keep an eye out for that one. Meanwhile, Marco Jonker's 19th position in the Lamborghini, doing his level best to find a way past Saruko ahead of him.
There's been a few issues down this end of the grid. Obviously, you can see Charlie Croston there with a 15
wow.
second penalty. Not that big, don't worry. A 15 second time penalty. That was for contact with Cantoneo. So that's where that penalty's come from. But there has been more issues. There are drivers that are down the grid that should not be. Stefanko was running around in 20th last time we saw him, now down in 29th position. Camera and Niox for G2, they are down in 23rd and 24th. They were both battling, or Niox was ahead of Gregor Schill, and Camera was battling with Gregor Schill, so they are dropped down the order. Not 100% sure as to why. We'll take a look at the race start once again. You can see how crazy this is in the mid-pack.
Yeah, massively tight for all these cars. Everybody looking for their own little bit of real estate on the racetrack. A bit of a check back there, and that is a very, very standard accident here at the Marco Simoncelli Misano World Circuit. Just slowing down, trying to avoid the cars in front. The rest of the grid, all 20-odd cars behind you, don't quite realise what's happening. And sadly, he was the recipient of that bit of contact. As meanwhile, now, Maciej Malinowski having a great drive up in 8th position, so doing well compared to qualification is Malinowski, but he's very much under pressure from Baroni behind. So the Porsche versus the AMG Mercedes in a squabble for 8th position. This is one that's going to carry on for some laps yet, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was, obviously Brioni's got a decent amount of pace in the sense of qualified in 4th spot. And has dropped back. Let's take a look at what's happened to Durkop as running down. Oh, that's a big bit of contact there. That's a bit of a shame for Bonacorsi, for Ballas Esports. Just a bit of a shame. Did it a little bit too hot on the brakes for the Unicorns Love driver and made contact, and will be receiving a penalty as far as we're being told for that. There goes Brioni down the inside. Not quite made it stick on Malinowski.
Yeah, Brioni now seems to be the man with the pace at this moment in time. Malinowski recognises that there is a pace differential to the Mercedes behind. He's taking defensive lines into the corner, but the more defensive the number 991 car is, the slower he will be and the closer. Malinowski now goes down the inside, late on the brakes, keeps the car on the apex, runs it out wide, gives Malinowski no opportunity to counter, and that is taking your opportunity with both hands and running wild with it. A fantastic overtaking manoeuvre there from Brioni to liberate 7th place from Maciej Malinowski.
That was absolutely superb from Tiziano Brioni. And you can see there, there you go, another form of driving. We've had triple screens, we've had single screens, we've now got a bit of VR. We'll continue that discussion, I'm sure, tomorrow in the 6 hours of Nurburgring. Don't you worry. We had a little bit of a chat about this in the 24 hours of Spa about a month ago. This is further down the order. Battle for 20th, realistically. You've got Yonkers, Niox, Craner, who's just been dropped down behind Niox, and obviously Arthur Camera. Those two BMWs will be pretty annoyed with where they are in this race right now.
Yeah, we're very interested to see what's happened there. Of course, we saw teammate squabbling earlier, the BMW boys up in 12th and 13th position. So obviously, some kind of drama has befallen Nils Naujoks and Artie Camera to run outside of the top 20. Lap 1 incident involving cars number 20 and 475. A drive-through penalty for the 475 machine, which is Marcello Bonacorsi in the Team Ballas Esports Aston Martin that we saw earlier on. But Ben Craner, 22nd position. Great to see a Honda represented on the grid, but not quite as far up the running order as he would have liked at this stage.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to the likes of Nico Hillebrand. Of course, we've got a one inside the top 20, being in 15th position with King. There is Craner being passed by Camera, being passed by Antomarchi as well, and nearly Focher as well. Sivert is also in the mix, but Hillebrand was inside the top 20 a little bit earlier in the race, as there goes the move down the inside, and Focher going to gain the position. Just a bit of an easy dive. It's not going to be completed though, and there we go. It is sorted at that point. I think there's a little bit of a brush to sort that one out, and Craner is in a one-way trip down the order, unfortunately, as Savet's also going to get through.
And this is very much the case of a championship such as this, where the top 31 drivers are covered by a barnstorming 1 second in qualification. You make one mistake, you get overtaken, you get pushed off the ideal racing line for just one corner, and it's not one driver going past you, but 4. And Ben Craner very much feeling the heat now. He's managed to stay ahead of Sever in 26th position, but can he keep his composure in the number 93 Yas Pro Europe HPD Honda? We will find out, but Craner lost 3 positions in quick succession, and also quite a bit of real estate as well as they continue to squabble. So Craner got some work to do to get himself back into that fight that is developing quite nicely indeed just ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it's the same with quite a lot of racetracks, but where you've got those sections, particularly down the end of the backstretch, where you run round into, you go through the left-hand hairpin, then you go through this double right-hander. If you're knocked out of the rhythm, it's hard to get back in line, and i.e. not get freight trained. It's very, very hard to reassert yourself as a part of the group, and clearly struggles there as Malinowski's not done with Tiziano Brioni, as after being passed, fancies getting back past the Mercedes, but Cagnoli is also directly behind with Petrochenko and Grant Smith all in this train, and don't necessarily rule out that BMW there of Gregor Schill dragging Jeremy Bouteloup as well up to the mix. As I said before, Bouteloup's been getting better as the season's been going on after a podium last round, 2 top 5s in the last 2 races. That Bentley might well be knocking at the door of some decent points a bit later in this race.
Yeah, we've seen that before this season, haven't we? A bit of a slow start, then slowly but surely makes his way through the running order. Intelligent strategy at the pit stop window as well can open up opportunities, as we're looking at Jeremy Bouteloup now in the number 7 VRS Coanda Bentley Continental GT3. You can see him picture in picture soaring away at the steering wheel. That is not an easy car to navigate round this Misano World Circuit. It is the number 7 at this moment in time, as car 13 drive through penalty for avoidable contact. That is Adrian Antomarchi for the Redline Zach Racing Machine. So Antomarchi will be visiting pit road unexpectedly in the next couple of laps, as Petrochenko now finds himself in a very exciting and somewhat expensive sandwich in the number 26 Porsche. He's got his sister Porsche behind him. That is Grant Smith Caglione in the Bentley Continental just ahead as well, and any one of these drivers could be the movement man in the next couple of laps and finding themselves going up or down the order for each and every one of them's sake. Let's hope that is up the running order, but Yuri Petrochenko at this moment in time has a defensive action to run and also very much fancies a way past the 1-1-1 ahead, as now Petrochenko runs a little bit wide on corner exit. That gives Grant Smith a bit of an option to go at the inside, decides against it, gets the slipstream of the Porsche for the maximum run down the straight. The fast right-hander now goes to the inside nice and early, goes to the outside, sorry, nice and early. There's not really much doing there. He's going to run out of racetrack. He wisely acknowledges the case, tries to cut back again, tries to find a way to the inside, but Petrochenko has it covered and more. Great bit of driving from these two.
No, but what he has done, though, as Grant Smith, is he's pulled Petrochenko realistically off of the back of Caglione, which is great for him in the sense that now he's only got to focus on getting past this car. It's not about the slipstream that the slipstream of Petrochenko's getting from the big Bentley ahead. We are just 7.5 minutes away, though, from the pit stop sequence where they'll be allowed to come in that middle 10 minutes of the race. They'll need to take a minimum of 1 litre of fuel, nothing else. They don't have to take anything else. Might be a little bit more than that, mind. But yeah, just 1 litre of fuel. Get that one ticked off, get that one sorted. That's where some of these drivers might work their way up the order and find themselves in a better position inside the top 10. For Grant Smith and Petrochenko, realistically at the moment, if they're sat in that slipstream, could be, just conserving themselves for the second half of the race.
Now here, Lewis, is something I did not expect to see. David Tanitsa, rather than being on the attack, is coming under pressure from the Williams Esports car of Adair McCormack. Now don't forget, the Ferrari is carrying no balance of performance weight, so it is running at its base 0 kilograms. I would have expected this car to have been a little bit quicker at this stage in the race, but it does look like the Williams machine very much has the legs on Tanitsa. And let's put ourselves in David Tanitsa's seat. He's leading the championship. His nearest rival is James Baldwin, who is leading the race 2 cars further up the road. His second rival, Josh Rogers, isn't taking part in this event. And Adair McCormack is a young, hungry driver that wants this position. What do? Do you continue to fight hard against your rival, or are you thinking about points at this stage in the race?
We spoke about this coming into this, that I've said before that realistically Tanitsa needs to drive this like a champion, i.e. the championship is the most important thing. I know that sounds, again, one of those silly points that I tend to throw out every now and then, but it is still relevant where, like you say, don't fight unnecessarily. Whilst third is great, you want to grab third. Fourth is, it's still 12 points. It's 3 points difference, whilst that matters later on in the championship. If you're constantly getting fourth, he's got a good buffer in the championship, and it twos and fro's. Like you say, McCormack's a young driver, 17-year-old from Ireland, wants to go on the attack, wants to grab a podium for Williams Esports, and really assert himself into that team and show why he's been selected to be a part of that outfit. And so, for Tanitsa, realistically, he doesn't really have that much to prove. He's already proved what he's worth. He's leading the championship by 30-odd points. If I were him, I'd be like, obviously do what you're doing. Don't let the guy go, but don't fight him unnecessarily, because if you do, Ciggy will be knocking at the door, and Ciggy will come through, and that is championship-worthy stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a great scalp for Adair McCormack. If he can take it, a Formula 1 World Esports champion and championship leader in sprint and endurance series in SRO is David Tanitsa. So McCormack will be hungry to take that position away. Meanwhile, I need to correct myself, because apparently when reading under pressure the word Bentley, it looks incredibly like Ferrari. And I was wrong. Ferrari does have 30 kilograms of weight. It is the Bentley that is running on 35 kilograms. So both cars a little bit heavier than we've seen at different stages in this race, but still take nothing away. Adair McCormack, even with 5 extra kilos and much less experience, is driving phenomenally well. And Tanitsa, at this moment in time at least, does not have an answer for our 2 race leading cars. But we've said this before, we've been in this situation, Lewis, many times, where it looks like the top positions are locked in, then the pit window opens up and everything changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who knows who could be dragged back into this. There's Rose going for the dive down the inside. Gap's kind of there, looking to the inside and grabbing the position off of King, departing the corner. Fantastic move. The door was open. It was fairly hesitant as a move, not really committing fully, but if the door's there, it wasn't covered off well enough, and the Honda's dropping down a position to the Ferrari. That is absolutely superb. Will say, by the way, for those top two, I don't know about you, I'm not vibing that there's going to be a move between the two of them, at least not for now, because right now it does just look like Baldwin is comfortably in control, and I'm not saying there is an order between them for Murphy not to pass, but I'm pretty sure there's a bit of no risk, absolutely no risk at all. Baldwin is going for this championship, make no mistake.
Yeah, the best opportunity for Eamon Murphy, we're seeing picture in picture now, the best opportunity for the Yas Heat driver is to pressurise Baldwin into making a mistake, and for Baldwin to open the door of his own accord and allow an easy pass for Eamon Murphy. But James Baldwin does not make those kind of mistakes. Famous commentator's curse inserted into the broadcast.
Right.
Let's see if that immediately becomes proves me a liar. But James Baldwin at this moment in time has it under control. But just to wind back a second, if I can, to Ayanori Rose and that overtake, fantastic to see in virtual reality as she tilts her head to the side to see where the other car is, which is one of the big advantages of virtual reality. Of course, you're in the virtual world of that cockpit and you can look around you and see where your car is placed in comparison to a rival. So great shots by our broadcast team to see Ayanori just scoping out her track position as she made that manoeuvre.
Well, that's it. You know, it's the thing that VR and triple screens gives to a similar extent in some ways. It's the spatial awareness. It's understanding exactly where the front of your car is. And that's where the better drivers come to the fore, when they understand exactly how big their car is and what kind of risks they can take with that dive down the inside. Like I say, it was a little bit hesitant getting there. I think more in the sense that could have essentially backed out at any moment, but it wasn't covered off by King. So Ayanori Rose going for the move, and it was done like nice. It was clean. That's the important thing. It was just a nice tidy move down to the hairpin, which is something which we've not seen from everyone this race.
Yeah, not the easiest thing to achieve around this circuit is somebody else trying to find a nice tidy overtaking manoeuvre. This is the Petrochenko fight. Once again, Yuri Petrochenko is in contact between two Porsches. Petrochenko just about recovers and survives in 11th position. Jordan Grant-Smith very much making his presence known alongside the number 26 car, but both survive that contact. What that does is give Gregor Schill even a little bit more heart, a little bit more involved in the fight. And we all know you give half an opportunity to Gregor Schill, he will turn that into a full-bodied overtaking manoeuvre as we now look on board in Nils Naujoks. This is in the G2 Esports BMW. This is Naujoks looking to the outside, contact from behind. That is why Nils Naujoks secondary contact as well. His teammate dives to the runoff to avoid him, and that is why Nils Naujoks is running. Third contact, oh dear, oh dear. That is why Naujoks is running much further down the running order than we saw in the early stages of this event.
Yeah, it makes sense as well, as I said, we saw him drop down a little bit. I don't know which one that was that made contact. We think it's Lozio who might well have made that contact, but I wasn't sure how close Arthur Camera was, and you're always sort of sat there thinking, I really hope it's not a teammate contact. I mean, if there's one thing for certainty, at least from that angle, is that Naujoks didn't do anything wrong, was just sort of sat there and then was hit. Space was given had there been a car to the inside. It was just as it was. The pit window, by the way, is now open. All drivers will be required to jump down pit lane once. And if I'm in a train like this, if I'm the car at the rear, if I'm Nico Hillebrand right now, I am diving down pit lane. I want to get this out of the way straight away, and I want to see if I can jump that train.
Yeah, this has got Bale written all over it now as we're looking. This is the Naujoks incident once again from off board. So Naujoks, the 52 BMW, shows his nose to the inside, thinks better of it, runs the wide line out high, and then the Bentley Continental just cannot get the car slowed down enough. There's the teammate going to the outside as well, and just for good measure, that little McLaren is going to say, boo, naughty, naughty. And that is how Nils Naujoks went from a good top 15 position to now in the pit lane to serve his mandatory stop and way down the order.
Yeah, just Boodloo a bit too hot there and making contact. The lone VRS Coanda Simsport driver and is receiving a penalty for his troubles on this one. Unfortunately, car number 7 will just come up onto the screen. We're just getting the note from race control. That is Boodloo, and it is going to be a drive-through penalty for that incident, which is a pretty harsh, but you've got to say harsh but fair. I mean, made contact with one driver. It cost. Obviously, you speak of the incident itself rather than what happened afterwards. You've got to do it like that because it's the only fair way of doing it. But he made contact. It's how it was. Like I say, I definitely don't disagree with that.
Yep, slam dunk. That is two massive cars making contact with each other, the BMW and the Bentley. Now, this is a little bit earlier in the race for the running, a little bit further down the running order. So the McLaren to the outside, the Audi R8 LMS to the inside. The McLaren decides, I don't want to give up this position. The Williams and the ballast car in running order further down as well, trying to find an opportunity. But that is the Jean Alesi Sport car. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Yes, Bentley Continentals are not having a very good time on the stopping pedal, methinks.
They're heavy. We'll go with that. I mean, the thing is, between those two, between Boodloo, between Stefanko, those two are they're both very fair drivers. They're both very nice drivers. Like, and I'm not saying that they're very nice people, because we know this with sim racing. There's a couple where we're just sort of like, but. Between those two at least, I mean, I've watched them race a handful of times over the last few years, and I've had the chance to meet Stefanko and that lot. And I think I met Boodloo once a long time ago, but they're nice people. I know there is absolutely no intent in it, but it happened. And like you say, you're probably still going to pick up a penalty regardless. I think Stefanko will be picking up a very similar penalty in the sense of a drive-through from that being consistent.
Yeah, such is when you're racing so close together. And I have met Jeremy a couple of years ago and can very much testify to the fact he is a lovely, lovely guy, as well as an incredibly fast sim racer. But Jordan Grant Smith now, we're looking at in 12th position, still cannot find a way past Yuri Petrochenko for that 11th place. But Grant Smith looked to the outside initially, then the inside, then back to the outside once again, using all the racetrack and more to get a run around the Porsche. That's not really going to do a great deal. And now Gregor Schill thinks, yes, this is my opportunity to pull the trigger and find a way past. Gregor Schill once again, the wily fox, using the chances when they present themselves, throws the BMW at the first opportunity down the inside, and Gregor Schill, as expected, sees the door, opens the door, walks through the door, doesn't even take his shoes off, and got the position.
Yeah, that was absolutely superb. Grant Smith, I mean, to be fair, kind of saw that one coming, gave the room, despite being on a single screen setup, saw everything unfolding, gave the room to the apex, and I mean, penny for every time that you've seen someone not give room on that kind of point. Like I say, he knew that move was done, and so jumped out of the way. As they're not done yet, the battle still continues. Grant Smith trying to go around the outside, not able to make it stick. It's pulled them off of Petrochenko, and now Gregor Schill should absolutely light up the afterburner. There it goes. You can see it just pulling away in the straight lines. What we were seeing earlier between Bagnall and Brioni, when as soon as the Porsche gets to this bit, it just doesn't have the straight line speed to contend with something like a BMW or a Mercedes, and they just started to pull away. It was almost pretty much secure for Gregor Schill. But when are these drivers going to come into the pit? And I think Grant Smith might come down this time by.
I think Petrochenko would be wise to serve his stop as well, but he doesn't. He carries on as Jordan Grant Smith comes down pit road to serve his mandatory pit stops, down to the 50 kilometres an hour speed limit on the line. Make sure you hit that speed limiter on time, or you will get yourself a drive-through penalty, which can be disastrous in terms of your final race result. 29 minutes 54 seconds. We're in the second half of this race, Lewis McGlade, already in the first 30 minutes, as we suggested might be the case, have been very, very excited, at least from 7th position on down.
Yeah, there's been quite a lot of hostilities. There is the penalty to Stefanko, so getting a 10-second time penalty for contact with Arthur Camara. That one not being the instant that we saw from Stefanko when he spun out Lozio, so that one's not that 10-second time penalty. So something might happen even further to the Williams Esports driver. Like I say, halfway through the race, we've had some elbows out driving. We've had some just sitting in this kind of train and letting things unfold. I think we might well see some fireworks in the latter part of this race. Luke Whitehead is the highest driver to have completed a pit stop. Obviously was running inside that top 10, well in the points paying positions. Currently running in 22nd position. We've seen this driver battling quite a few times through this race, but now is sort of in the traffic. And this is where, thankfully, with the grid being so close, if you come up against traffic, you know that 9 times out of 10, they're probably not running the too dissimilar pace to you. But still, it would be pretty frustrating. I'm trying to get after the top 10 here. Can you, do you mind hopping out of the way, Picopion?
Yeah, the PPR Esports driver Luke Whitehead in the AMG Mercedes, which carries no weight. I'll get it right this time. Hooray! I have it right. The Mercedes is the one with no weight. So Whitehead needs to make hay a little bit while the opportunity presents itself. The car very much at the sharp end of the grid, as you mentioned earlier, running well inside the top 10. Whitehead trying to take as much life and lap time out of those ahead of them before they come down to serve their stoppers. Darren King, Gregor Schill jump down pit road. So does Kevin Ciggy of the big runners. So Kevin Ciggy now, one of the stars of the championship, one of the championship contenders, makes his mandatory pit stops. Let's see where he filters out as once again Baldwin, Murphy, Tanitsa all stay on the racetrack. It'll look like they're going to come in right at the very death of the pit window.
Yeah, going to leave it out another lap or lap and a bit just to try and, extend it as far as possible and then come in. Kevin Ciggy's taking a little bit of a gamble by coming in a little bit earlier than some of the other drivers that he was fighting with. Still has a decent gap to Whitehead being the next position behind. So in that sense, realistically, things are quite good. And Whitehead's being held up by Picopion, who qualified quite far down the order. I'm just going to say something about Whitehead, by the way. This is more in a sense PPR, because I see that Cody Pride was watching it, of course, teammate. And I know that people pick up on the fact that I talk about liveries a lot, but I will say PPR Esports much prefer their other livery where it's black and gold rather than this, although I do like an asymmetrical design. I'm just going to say, just throwing it out there, got to every now and then.
Lewis McGlade, design genius, available all day for the next 26.5 minutes. Let us know in the comments if you agree with Lewis's design tastes. But meanwhile, just another quick one that's worth mentioning. Well, a question I want to ask you, should I say, Lewis. We often see the drivers at the sharp end of the grid leaving their stop right to the very end of the pit window. What's the advantage of leaving it right to the very death compared to coming in the early stages?
For one, more importantly than anything else, realistically, is track position. Provided you actually have it. So, for example, like Baldwin has no requirement to come in before the end of this window. He'll just sit out there until the last opportunity, just so he's staying in clean air. The only cars that he has to worry about is Malinovsky's had an issue down the order, and there's Whitehead as well, so they're going to be battling it out. Let's just take a look at this one, as Malinovsky should be able to hang on to the position. Whitehead cuts back in line. That was coming straight out of the pit lane. It wasn't an issue for Malinovsky, it was just a tight rejoin, and now Whitehead might be trying to make the position stick down into the hairpin through what is apparently turn 7 down to 8. Malinovsky sat in the middle of the road, keeping Whitehead at bay, should be able to do so in that portion, but the Mercedes might attack through the next few right-handers, as it'll really pick up speed once again. And just to go back to that point in a moment, should there not be a move here, also the other thing is that they won't really be taking tyres, so the longer you go, you're running these laps on a lower tank because you've burnt off all the fuel. If you come in and pit, you don't take tyres, you fill up the fuel, you've got a heavy car.
Oh, close as you can get. Malinovsky very much under pressure. Whitehead paying the price for being caught behind a slower car for just that single lap has put him on the back foot. That has allowed Maciej Malinovsky to keep track position, and great driving from the random pasta ball, believe it or not, named team of Maciej Malinovsky in the number 991. Does a fabulous job to retain track position. Meanwhile, we saw our race leaders all heading down pit road as the mandatory window now closes. So when everything shakes itself out, and here's something interesting, Caglioni's coming down pit lane, but the pit window's closed.
Yeah, so I think... apparently we're hearing that Caglioni did a pit stop, but clearly didn't do the required fuel. So I think that's pretty much a slam dunk DQ. unless just came within the pit stop window. I don't think it is. I think it was just outside of it. Oh, Attila Dench wide though, and Rose coming down the inside and gaining that position. That was just on the exit of pit lane. You've got Yonkers as well. Oh, big contact, and Yonkers has gone round.
Oh, that is a bit of drama further down the running order. Yonkers gets the car back on the circuit once again, but the Lamborghini is the big loser in that one. Meanwhile, Gregor Schill in the BMW Sim Racing G2 Esports BMW is just outside the points paying positions now in 11th position. Petrochenko is the next driver up the road, but Jordan Grant Smith, who we've talked about and seen plenty of over the course of this race, 12th position, trying every trick in the book and more to find a way past the BMW driver in 11th, Luke Whitehead, that we saw in plenty of excitement with Maciej Malinowski, 8th and 9th position now, riding on board with the PPR Esports. Luke Whitehead, he is trying so desperately to find a way past and into 8th position. James Baldwin at the head of the field retains his race lead, 1.8 seconds to the good from Eamon Murphy. David Tanitsa retains 3rd position just ahead of Dare McCormack. 1.2 seconds is the gap between the 95 and the 814. Kevin Ciggy recovering into 5th place, just a second in arrears of the 814 machine. Bagnall in 6th position. Birione P7, the man that we're looking at ahead of us. Maciej Malinowski in 8th, Luke Whitehead 9th, and Jure Petrochenko just 10th position.
Absolutely crazy stuff there. I mean, we were saying the first half of the race was pretty hectic, but naturally just coming out of pit lane sequence as everyone's trying to filter their way into the racetrack nicely and comfortably, it was absolute chaos. A lot of drivers missing out on points. Petrochenko getting himself inside the points paying positions, and Gregor Schill, I say, having to keep his eyes on his mirrors. Quite a lot of drivers have gained through that pit lane sequence. James Baldwin's gained a decent amount on Eamon Murphy, so has pulled the gap out to around about 2 seconds. Tanitz has also pulled out a decent gap on McCormack. But look at McCormack and look at the gap to Kevin Ciggy. I think Ciggy fancies himself another podium.
And Ciggy needs this position. As we said again at the beginning of the broadcast, Kevin Ciggy joined 3rd in the championship standings on 63 points alongside Josh Rogers, who is not present in this race for VRS Coanda. So the more points that Kevin Ciggy can score today, the more he will cement that 3rd position in the championship and keep himself, although in contention for championship challenging as well, although that is getting a little bit more difficult as each race progresses, because currently, as things stand with 21.5 minutes left on the clock, his main championship rival David Tanitsa is still ahead of him on the racetrack up the road in 3rd place. But again, we've seen very many different bits of drama unfold in the final few minutes of a race, so Ciggy still hard charging, still looking for opportunities, still trying to find a way to close the gap to the Ferrari car that is just in the front of this shot. So Ciggy still very much in a launch and attack position.
Yeah, let's see if the thing is, when it comes to the straight line speed, remember how I said earlier in the broadcast I want a car that's decent on a straight? The Porsche's not that. It's a fine car to drive. It's a little bit on edge. It's a tricky car. Matches nicely to cornering and such like that. I mean, it's a bit sketchy, but it's quick in the corners. The BMW is a bit more punchy in a straight line. It's not necessarily the fastest, but it's definitely faster than the Porsche. And so once we come out of here to where you'd suspect this is a good overtaking opportunity, we've seen plenty coming through these fast right-handers, but you can see there, bye-bye Porsche, Grant Smith just not able to keep up, doesn't have the horses under the hood to get after Gregor Schill in the important bits of the track. It needs to be a bold move somewhere potentially around here or in those first sort of 3-4 corners. Needs to be something down there.
And this is such a frustrating feeling, isn't it, as a racing driver, when you know that you've got the overall lap speed in your car, but the rival ahead is just that so much quicker a straight line. As you say, you said bold, I would suggest risky is another good word as well, where that is the danger zone overtake, isn't it, where you've got to throw the car in, commit, and hope that your rival acknowledges that you're making a move and gives you racing space. So I wouldn't want to be Jordan Grant Smith at this stage in the race, because that's going to be interesting how that one pans out. Meanwhile, let's have a look at this driver. This is Sam Bagnall, 6th position. Not really seen much of the Indigo Lime Racing number 46 car, but a very accomplished drive so far from Bagnall in 6th position, holding off Trizione Birone in the 71, very similar liveried AMG Mercedes behind.
Yeah, what we were seeing there between Schill and Grant Smith, this is the opposite way round of it. As let's see if Brioni's going to be able to get down the inside, down towards the end of this. We've got a couple of duos battling it out. Of course, we've got McCormack and Ciggy. We've got Bagnall and Brioni. We've got Malinovsky and Whitehead with Petrochenko as well jumping into the mix. You've got Schill and Grant Smith as well. You've got Niox and Rose, as Niox is working his way back up the order after those incidents with Bootloo, and doing a fantastic job, it must be said, for the G2 Esports drivers of Niox and Camera to recover into those the positions they're presently in, 14 to 15. I'm sure they won't be happy with them, but in consideration as to where they were not too long ago, they've done a good job to just get back into the mix. Look at that wide line they take through T1, as Bagnall is desperate to keep the Mercedes at bay, and Brioni's fast. Again, not the greatest start to the race. Qualified in P4, but dropped down to P9, is also doing a little bit of a recovery drive himself.
Yeah, it's good to see those two fighters, and Brioni, of course, flashing the headlights, trying to put Bagnall off of his stride, which I'm sure will not have a great deal of effect. Bagnall driving very, very well indeed. Ayanori Rose that we're looking at in the Jean Alesi Esports Academy Ferrari now. 16th position. Rose maybe not quite as high up as she would have expected to have been at this stage in the race. The next one up the list is Nils Naujoks, as you rightfully said, having a great recovery drive in 15th position. Last time we really saw Nils Naujoks and Artie Camera, they were well down outside of the top 20 runners. So Naujoks doing well in 15th, but at the moment he doesn't seem to have the pace of the chasing Ferrari behind. It's always easier to chase than it is to lead, and Ayanori Rose now very much on her tiptoes, trying to find a way past the big BMW, the Jean Alesi Esports Academy car versus the BMW G2 Esports Works machine. The Alesi car goes down the inside. Naujoks recognises there's a car there, gives enough racing room. Road keeps it to the inside, running too wide down the back straight. Who will be the bravest on the brakes? Who will take the corner? The BMW, using the natural straight line advantage, closes the door aggressively. Ayanori Rose doesn't quite achieve the overtake, but she looks to the inside again. Very, very, very dangerous manoeuvre there. Nils Naujoks retains position, but that is some sensational driving amongst these two.
That was absolutely beautiful for an attempt down into 9 and 10. You don't see that. You see it a few times, you just don't see it successfully that often. Unfortunately, it was just the drag of the BMW off of 10 down towards those fast right-handers that was just too much for Rose to actually do something with it. But brave, committed, that's the kind of move that we need to see from the likes of Grant Smith. It needs to be, like you say, assertive, it needs to be brave, it needs to be risky, it needs to be committed more so than anything else.
Yeah, that's very much a case now of who is the most hungry of these two drivers is going to be the one that comes out on top as we go back to the Jordan Grant Smith fight now. Again, a BMW very much in the mix of it. Again, a BMW on the defensive. This is Gregor Schill, that is Jordan Grant Smith. The fight is for 11th position, and Grant Smith doing everything he can in the Porsche. Much better on the brakes, much better to the apex of the corner, but loses out, as we've said before, on the grunt and go-ness of the BMW. The straight line speed of the BMW off the corner and at the end of the straights is what gives them the advantage into all the premium overtaking opportunities here at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli and Grant Smith, sure, he cannot see the fight behind him with Rose, of course, because he's concentrating on his own race. He'll not be watching the broadcast, but he needs to channel some of that Jean Alesi Esports Academy spirit that Ayanori Rose has shown and see if he can get his car side by side with the BMW and force an opportunity in the next 15 minutes and 20 seconds before the checkered flag waves on this, the 6th round of the season.
I think Yonkers has had a bit of an issue as well, as he's dropped down to 22nd. There's been an issue for Malinovsky as well, who's dropped back behind Whitehead, keeping Petrochenko at bay though, and potentially losing out. Had a good day. Was it? Yeah, it was yesterday actually for Random Passable alongside Cody Pride in the Sprint Cup. At Zandvoort in the sim grid, which was all well and good, winning that one quite comfortably as well. But you know, it's sorry, it was second. Apologies, not the win. My apologies. Oh, there's been an incident between Malinovsky and Petrochenko, as Petrochenko has got through. And I'm sure that one will need to take a bit of a replay. Also, by the way, we've got a three-way fight for third as Tanitsa, McCormack and Ciggy are very, very close indeed.
Yeah, Malinowski, whatever's happened, Malinowski did not like that one bit, flashing the headlights in anger at his rival, Yuri Petrochenko. So, 9th and 10th position. The sting has been taken out of that fight a little bit while they sort themselves back out and get back up to racing speed. But now, Maciej Malinowski, if he did not need motivation before that incident, certainly has armfuls of it now and will be ever more determined to find a way past into 9th position. James Baldwin now, the race lead has dropped to 1 second. So 8 tenths have been found and gained by Eamon Murphy since we last looked at the front of the field. David Tenitza, 5 seconds in a rear, so very much detached in 3rd position, but he's concentrating, as you say, Lewis, on Dale McCormack and Kevin Ciggy snapping away at the Ferrari Driver Academy Racers' heels. The 488 GT3 Evo, not quite a match at this moment in time, it seems, for the very light Mercedes and the very fast McLaren 720S.
Yeah, it seems that we're guaranteed a McLaren 1-2 here with Baldwin and Murphy.
Brave.
I mean, considering where they are, I'm just, commentators, guys, it's fine. Considering where they are way down the road. If they don't fight, which, to be honest, we're not really expecting them to do so right now, it'll be pretty much locked on unless something dramatic happens. But will it be a 1-2-3 as Malinowski gets a drive-through penalty in the 991 Porsche? That's going to promote this battle to being the final point-paying position. And I'm getting word in my ear that Malinowski, and this is an important note for everyone else over the next 30 minutes, it's not come from race control. That is a drive-through down to track limits.
Ooh. And on this kind of circuit, of course, Lewis, anybody who's familiar with GT3 cars on the Misano circuit, you need to be greedy with the curbs. You need to minimise the amount of turning the car takes. You need to really monster the curbs and a little bit of strip after that corner to get a good lap time. So easy to instigate those cut track penalties. And meanwhile, we're hearing here that Aodori Rose has lost a little bit of time. And also, Eamon Murphy and James Baldwin, during their mandatory pit stop, set identical times in the pit lane, which I think is the first time we've seen that this season.
Yeah, potentially so. Like I say, it doesn't necessarily surprise me so much. They are just locked on to doing exactly the same as the other and just do what you're doing. Don't make a mistake. Drivers of that quality, they're not likely to make a major mistake. I mean, James Baldwin, we know the level of quality that he is in sim racing, of course, world's fastest gamer a few years ago. And Eamon Murphy is in the Yas Heat team, which they don't employ drivers that are average, right? If you're in Yas Heat, if you're in Veloce in general, you are a quality driver, and Eamon Murphy has shown that plenty of times over his sim racing career over the last couple of years, over any sort of GT racing he's been doing. I always see him in GT. I don't ever see, I'm sure I would have done at some point, but I genuinely cannot recall a time that I've seen Eamon Murphy in something that isn't a GT car.
Has nothing to do with the fact that GT is very much the classic series of choice in virtual motorsport. But let's have a quick look now at Tizione Brioni in 7th position. This is a fight that's been going on now for the last few laps. The car ahead is Sam Bagnall in the Porsche number 46. Bagnall not quite showing as much pace as Brioni, but Brioni can't find a way past in the AMG. Bagnall's looking a little bit ragged the last couple of corners that we've seen him on our pictures. So Brioni will recognise that. He'll know that Bagnall's maybe not quite as experienced in this championship as some of his rivals. He's having a good race. 6th position is an incredibly strong performance from Bagnall, and Brioni now is very much dressed for summer, as you can see in that picture. Is keeping things cool in his room to try and keep a cool head on the racetrack and use some of that racing nous to find a way past.
I'm not going to lie, I'd turn the fan off from rotating. That'd be distracting as we'll see Brioni going for the move now on Bagnall around the outside. This could work out nicely coming down into 9 and 10, but had to run out a little bit further wide. And as they battle, Petrochenko will be closing in. Said before that Gregor, that battle for 10th is now the final points-paying positions, and Grant Smith will be more desperate than normal to get through, to go and grab that final points-paying position. Brioni, though, he'll be frustrated, having been sat here for a fair while and just no way to make this move stick. Because, here comes Gregor Schill with Grant Smith. just not enough Grant Smith to pull alongside. The drag from that BMW is just way too strong for the Porsche to do anything about it.
Yeah, that's going to be a real relief for Gregor Schill as we look at the BMW G2 Esports driver now in the picture. It's going to be a relief to know he has got that kind of performance advantage in a straight line. That will make defending a much easier task over the course of the last 9 minutes of this race. But Gregor Schill very much still under pressure, does not have the ultimate speed in that car of Jordan Grant Smith behind. Brioni now is the driver with the straight line advantage, but doesn't get around the corners as fast as the Porsche, so that is a problem inverted there for Brioni. Cannot find a way past despite the speed advantage. Whitehead at the back of the shot as well is starting to buy into this fight as well. Luke Whitehead, we've seen plenty of speed, we've seen plenty of bravery as well from the Mercedes driver. So Whitehead has decided it is now time to unleash some lap time and find a way, if he can, in a 7th and potentially 6th position before the checkered flag waves.
Having lost time through the pit lane sequence, Luke Whitehead made the stop earlier than basically everyone else. Was the first one to jump in from inside the top 10, caught up a little bit in traffic. Here's McCormack under pressure from Ciggy as well, diving it through those right-handers. Is Ciggy, the Austro-Slovenian, going to be able to make a move at some point on the Irishman? As all of that's happened, Petrochenko has picked up a 10-second penalty, which would promote both Gregor Schill and Jordan Grant Smith, potentially even Darren King, who might get a point for Honda.
Fantastic stuff, as we saw Dan McCormack there get very wide out onto the bumpy stuff. That compromises run down the start-finish straight into the first section of corners. Kevin Ciggy will not find a way past during this section, but will try and get the smoothest run possible in the red line car to get a run down the straight. Unfortunately, he cannot make up for the speed advantage in a straight line of the AMG Mercedes ahead. But Kevin Ciggy knows now that McCormack is under pressure, is susceptible to making the small mistakes that make the difference at this level. Kevin Ciggy now will feel emboldened to start pushing even harder in that 5th place red line McLaren to see if he can find a way past and into 4th position. Remember, Ciggy is very much a man interested in seeing if he can take the championship at the end of this season. So every point at this juncture in the championship that he can squirrel away for his own championship charge is going to be critical as the race and the championship progresses into the second half of the season.
But he's 36 points behind David Tanitsa, and the problem with that is he's 2 positions behind, so he'll be losing another 5 points, and it'll be up to 41, which over 4 races, I would not be so sure. And for Ciggy, things could be slipping through his fingers if he doesn't get past McCormack and Tanitsa. That's the real issue here. We've got this 3-way fight, though, between Bagnall, Brioni and Whitehead. You've got that 3-way fight between Gregor Schill, Grant Smith and Darren King. And Darren King, by the way, I was saying points for Honda, has scored points already this season. The very first round of the championship, picked up a couple of points when we went racing at Monza. So he's got experience scoring points, got plenty of experience racing in these styles of car. And like I say, he needs to gain a single position, and he's inside the points as long as they hold the gap to Petrochenko. It needs to be within 10 seconds, though. That's the issue. And the Honda should be fast enough in the straight to pull clear of the Porsche. Won't have those same issues that Grant Smith is having on the straights.
And I've got to admit, I am a fully paid-up fan of the Honda NSX GT3 or the Acura. Beautiful car, not the most competitive, but fabulous to see it scoring or in the hunt for scoring points. And Darren King, a great driver for the Dalkin Community Team machine, the number 38 so far. Jordan Grant Smith, heavy in his wing mirror. Look here now, Sam Bagnall closes the door last minute. Barone cannot find a way past in the Mercedes, tries to merge through into a gap that does not exist, and that means Luke Whitehead now can give a little love tap on the side of the car. Whitehead is the number at the 8th position machine on the outside of your picture. We're looking back from Sam Bagnall's Porsche now. Whitehead still keeps the car to the outside, has not given up hope of taking the position away from Baroni. Can he keep it around the outside? Whitehead, the bravest of the braves, if this overtaking opportunity can be pulled off, stays there, a little bit of a love tap, runs out of road, goes to the inside, kisses the back of the sister Mercedes, and those 2 cars are incredibly lucky, Lewis, to still be facing the right direction, because that is touring car racing in a GT at its very finest.
Swift hands from Brioni there, it's got to be said. Now Petrochenko's jumped into the mix, and whilst, yes, he's got a 10-second time penalty, Petrochenko will be watching one thing and one thing only, and that is the gap to Gregor Schill. Because if he finishes here, he's still going to finish 9th. But if these lot battle, he's going to lose time. He's going to drop back into that, and it could cost him points, even though he's not lost a position, just because they're all battling ahead. So Petrochenko might be a little bit, racy to try and get by here, just to try and make sure that the gap to Gregor Schill remains around 10.5 seconds, 11 seconds, whatever it is at the moment. Because for Schill, speaking of Schill, here comes Grant Smith.
Drama everywhere we look in the final 4 minutes of this race. Gregor Schill does not need this battle. Gregor Schill needs to concentrate on closing the gap. All 3 of these cars need to concentrate on closing the gap ahead of them. Petrochenko in a dangerous position himself, with, as you say very rightly, that Luke Whitehead and Brioni and Bagnall all squabbling over the same piece of tarmac as well. So now this is where the really established drivers have that mental capacity to do the maths, to work out where is the best situation for them going forward. But meanwhile, there's also an overtaking opportunity to be made, and it's very difficult as a driver, isn't it, to think big picture when you've got a car in front that you want to get past.
Yeah, like you say, it's it's the same thing with so many things in life. You kind of think, I'll just be a little bit patient, I'll wait till the right opportunity. And that's a great mindset to have for about 3 corners. And then you think, no, I'm diving this. It's obviously very, very hard. But now that you've got someone sat behind you, for Grant Smith, the urgency to get through has just shot up, but the opportunities have shot way down, because you have to consider when making one of those bold, aggressive moves that we were talking about before, where if you're going to go for it, I mean, he's going to make the move. At the moment, Gregor Schill's trying to help out, because guess who's knocking at the door of this train as well? Arthur Camera, his teammate, Gregor Schill's teammate, is nearly on the rear of this train as Brioni's nearly round, manages to pick it up, and here comes Whitehead.
Drama in the final few minutes. Brioni went for the overtaking manoeuvre. That did not work out. Luke Whitehead thinks, thank you very much, I'll have that position. And then Petrochenko, as we know, trying to minimise the time loss as well, as Brioni goes back down the inside once again, recovering from his earlier incident. Whitehead goes the long way around the outside, staying as far away from danger as we can. Petrochenko buys it now 3 wide. This is like NASCAR here at Misano. Petrochenko decides to back out of it because that is too dangerous by half. Now Petrochenko on the cutback tries to find a way past Brioni. Brioni very much in the heat of anything that's exciting, and Jordan Grant Smith buying into a fight as well.
Yeah, King's trying to make the move, and now watch this Honda light this up as we head onto the backstretch towards those right-handers. Should be able to clear the Porsche, but it's still going to be side by side. Still got the overlap as Grant Smith to the inside, but Darren King has completed the move. Honda's looking good right now to try and go and score some points. Needs to get on Gregor Schill right now. Grant Smith down the position. I'm sure that won't be too popular, although I will say the Dorking community I know is a very, very popular one, and Darren King with it. Now, that battle that we saw here is absolutely crazy. Brioni apparently was going for a move and then overdid it, and that opened the door for Whitehead to get through. But whilst they've been battling, Bagnall's gone, has absolutely gone. Now Whitehead has been aggressive trying to make these moves stick. I'd suggest if can catch Bagnall quite soon, might be able to make the move stick. But realistically speaking, they're only going to get what I assume is 1 more lap after this, although I can't be too sure. We do not have much time left.
Yeah, fantastic, absolutely fantastic stuff from both little battle packs there in the sun setting on this race. Not literally, but in terms of the times the sun is setting. And great drive, and it's still not over yet, because Brioni is very much still on the attack. The car behind Petrochenko with his 10-second time penalty to boot, still trying his level best to keep the gap to those in front of them, but that's not a problem for someone such as James Baldwin. As you see on the left-hand side of his screen, James Baldwin has led this race from start to finish. There are 10 seconds left on the clock. He's about to cross the line to start his final lap now, and James Baldwin still a comfortable race lead, but still points, still fights, and still battles to be resolved before the checker waves.
I do like it when we go for an extra lap. That is like the bonus lap. Who knows what's about to happen? It's an extra lap for Whitehead to try and get past Bagnall, and he is closing. There might well be an opportunity there. It's another one for Petrochenko to try and just keep the gap to Gregor Schill and try and hold on to 9th position. We've got Aonori Rose trying to get by Niox as well. So many battles.
And don't these cars look sensational in these nighttime conditions? Now York's doing good work with no doubt a hobbled BMW to keep the Ferrari behind. Ayanori Rose 15th position at the moment. She fancies that 14th position of Nils Naujoks, but Naujoks, a wily campaigner, if ever there was one, will have the measure of the Ferraris. Unlikely to make a mistake at this stage in proceedings as Petrochenko now, quick update on him, still in 9th position, still just about gapping the Gregor Schill BMW behind, 10.9 seconds his advantage, so Schill needs to dig deep and find himself 9/10 of a second between now and the checkered flag. Whitehead flashing his lights, he sees the pointer ahead, close that gap significantly. Does Whitehead have what it takes to find a way past in the last few moments of this race?
Yeah, I mean, I will say with Petrochenko, there's no need to fight at the moment. He'll just hang on to there, but here comes Baldwin through the final corner.
James Baldwin, pole position, race victory in the 6th round of the GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series. James Baldwin absolutely dominating proceedings and putting himself very much into championship contention. 2nd place, Eamon Murphy shadowed the McLaren driver all the way through the race. David Tinitzer takes the final spot on the podium to consolidate his championship lead. Dave McCormack, a fantastic result in 4th position. Kevin Ciggy 5th, Sam Bagnall in 6th. Whitehead, Birione, Petrochenko and Gregor Schill, the final person across the line in the points paying positions. But has he done enough to close that gap to Petrochenko head? No, he has not. Darren King, a very solid result in 11th place for the Honda, the fastest lead Honda. Jordan Grant Smith, thank you for the entertainment, good sir, in 12th position. Arta Camera, a good recovery, P13th. Nils Naujoks 14th, and Ayanori Rose rounding out the top 15 finishers in what, Mr. Lewis McGlade, I would say has been one for the record books. A sensational race here at Zandvoort.
Absolutely superb all the way through. Look at the battle for 25th position, because it's not done yet, as Ben Craner, who had that 10-second time penalty for issues in qualifying against Niox, just trying to hang on to 25th from Antomarchi and Planas as well behind. It should be good for the Honda to keep the top 25. We'll say there's been so many recovery drives today. We've had obviously Arthur Camera and Niels Niox. We've had Nico Hillebrand, who dropped down, speaking of Honda drivers, up inside the top 20, which I think was the main aim before coming into this. It's a day of recovery. It's a day of fantastic racing. I mean, Misano's in my opinion, it's a great track to go racing on, and that is an example as to why. It was absolutely superb from pretty much start to finish, and no one, well, with the exception of a couple, Koff Bentleys, no one really overstepped the mark too much. It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of said before we went on air, and also during the opening of this broadcast, that one or two things are going to happen today, and I think we've said this probably every time that we've commentated together. It's either going to be a fabulous show of top-level esport driving in the opening laps, or it's going to be an absolute disaster zone of cars bouncing off each other and the scenery. And I think once again, our drivers have shown their class, their calibre, their racecraft skill and speed, and put on, certainly from the commentary box perspective, a thoroughly entertaining and incredibly fast-moving 60 minutes of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been superb, and I love seeing racing like that. It was racing with respect. The only issue that I've really got with it was James Baldwin not really being challenged for the lead with Eamon Murphy. I'm sure we could catch a word with him. He sat in the interview room and ready to be chatted to, Paul.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. So for the second time, we've got James Baldwin here as a race winner in the GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series. James, welcome. Congratulations on what was a much needed and fantastic 25 points.
Thank you very much. I mean, yeah, just really chilled out race. Surprisingly, we had the pace. Honestly, qualifying was like very nip and tuck. Just got a good lap in at the end. And then, me and Murphy have been working on the setup along with, I must say, a shout out to Amir Hosseini, who did the first round. And we've been doing a bit of training together, and we've definitely found some pace in the car. So, I was really enjoyed that.
Yeah, now you say you found some pace in the car, which is obviously very clear to us all today, but Eamon Murphy in second position. That's some team play there? Is that always going to have been a 1-2 to your advantage, or were you free to race?
Well, I mean, we're all we're our own men. We can, of course, we're free to race, but we're both very close. We both, train for a lot of events and stuff. We both agreed, like, he's missed a few rounds. I'm not too far away from Tinitsa, so let's just play the championship game. Obviously, if he went flying through and he pulled away, I can't stop that. But we were very even. So, to be fair, at the start of the race, I thought he had better pace. So maybe if he wanted to, he could have gone for a move. But yeah, we agreed. So. Yeah.
A good way to maximise the result. Of course, that now really throws you into championship contention with David Tinitsa finishing in 3rd position. And next up's the Nurburgring on September 24th. Can you foresee the continued improvement in pace for McLarens in Nurburgring?
Well, I mean, it's statistically quite a good track for the car. I mean, David's just so bloody consistent, man. Like, I thought he was going to be lower than that today, but he always pulls something out of the bag, and I only gained 10 points, so it's a good day. But yeah, there's still a long way to go. My only hope is that his F1 Esports stuff distracts him, but I don't know. He's really good. Nurburgring though, fingers crossed. Hopefully.
Fantastic stuff. Now, just to give everybody at home a little bit of insight, what's changed with yourself, the team, and the car? You've really come on strong these last couple of races. What's different? Where's this pace come from?
Honestly, I think it's teamwork. I think the first few rounds I was kind of on my own a bit with Murphy. We weren't putting in the hours as we are now. And, obviously, McLaren, Shadow, Yassi are all Veloce, and we just kind of sat down and went, what can we do here to maximise performance? We saw Coanda and FDA, they were clearly quicker at the start. So we put the hours in, the teamwork's improved, and we're quicker.
Well, sensational result and a beautiful drive. Never saw you put a foot wrong. So, James Baldwin, congratulations once again. I dare say this is not going to be the last time we speak to you this season, but well done. Brilliant race victory. Well deserved.
Cheers. Thank you. Have a good night.
Fantastic. You too. Thanks, James. And Lewis, fantastic again from James Baldwin. So calm and collected in interviews and on the racetrack. And he's going to be a real challenger to Tinitsa at the front of the field.
Okay, now obviously you've got to pull in the idea of what if it finishes 1st and 3rd every single round until the end of the season, Because that's always what we have. He was saying that it's only 10 points. I mean, on the consideration that the gap was 30 points, 30, a bit more than that. But you've chopped it down 10. You've chopped down basically a third of that margin. That is an enormous deal. So if it was to finish like this until the end of the season, then James Baldwin's winning the championship, and obviously he's saying quite rightly there that there is the distraction for Tinitsa as well, which I'm sure he'll be wise to anyway. But there's a lot still at stake. I mean, Baldwin is absolutely 110% a contender, and whilst the concern would be that he doesn't really have a teammate, in the sense that there's no McLaren Shadow driver on the grid when Tinitsa has DeSalvo, who we've seen some good pace out from so far. But obviously with Eamon Murphy and potentially any of the other Yas Heat drivers jumping in on this, he's got wingmen. He definitely does.
I think that's a big difference, isn't it? If you can have somebody taking points away from your rival, DeSalvo, of course, we know he's very fast. There was a little bit not scoring big points consistently like his teammate Tinitsa, then that's going to go a long way to helping out Baldwin in the long run. Now, Lewis even. James, we've just spoken to. Let's get this right. I've got 6 hours tomorrow to get it right, don't worry.
That's true.
Who would, if pushed, who's your driver of the day today?
I mean, there's actually quite a few. I mean, the likes, let's be honest, Darren King for that driver in Honda, that was absolutely superb. You've got Niels Nyox and Rose. That battle was superb. Rose having that rise up as well and having some great bold moves. I've got to give it to McCormack though. I've got to say that drive was superb from a driver who's I wouldn't say inexperienced in a sense. Obviously, has done quite a lot of races, but in the comparison to all of the other drivers that was racing with, was battling with one of sim racing's fastest drivers in David Tinitsa and Kevin Ciggy on the rear end, but dealt with the pressure brilliantly. I think Williams Esports have a superb driver in their hands right now, and I would definitely say McCormack is right up there.
Fantastic call, I think it was. And now, ladies and gentlemen, and Lewis McGlade, it has come to that time of the day to bid you all farewell and say thank you very much for joining us in this broadcast. If you've not quite got your fill of GT3 cars going quickly and Lewis and I shouting about what's happening, then tomorrow, the 11th of September, is the Nurburgring for the 6-hour race in the Endurance Series, and we're back in the Sprint Series once again on September the 24th. So, from myself, Paul Jeffrey, from Lewis McGlade, from AK Esports, SimGrid, SRO, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Pirelli, AWS, and Fanatec, thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.